And now, I will introduce the second speaker today, Dr. Juyoung Lee. Dr. Ho is a research scholar in Institute of National Development, National Taiwan University, and he had served in Institute of History and Philosophy Academia Sinica, Taiwan. His research interests address the relationship between environmental data and governance, the materiality of agriculture and water resource development in post-war East Asia. His current writing focuses on the transformation of hydrogeography, geological survey measure, and underground world ontology in the 1980s to 1990s Taiwan. Additionally, he is collaborating with Professor Paul E. Hong, Department of Geography, National Taiwan University, on the politics of Bayesian quota distribution. He has published several works in journals such as Singapore Journal of Tropic Geography, Journal Geographical Science, and the Journal of Archaeology and Anthropology. The lecture discusses how Taiwan's underground crisis was influenced by global geopolitics and local verticality, especially in the context of the East Asia Cold War. It examines how the interaction between local and global actors involved in managing groundwater resources impacted the production of vertically through the pursuit of legibility in the underground world, considering the varying needs and the skills of different actors. And it is turned to Dr. Ho. Applause.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for Dr. Lin's introductions, and thanks Professor Po's organizations. And I'm Juyoung Ho, and currently a research scholar at the Graduate Institute of National Development and at National Taiwan University. And after Meda's excellent speech, I will tell another stories also related to the development and the will to control water and underground world in the post-war Taiwan, or Free China as archive mentions. And my topic is the impact of geopolitics and local verticality on Taiwan's underground water crisis from 1949 to 1966. And as you can see, I changed the period of the topic. Originally, I did the pause is 1950 to 1975. Because I think 1949 to 66 is better periods to express my idea. But I will also mention a little bit a story after 1966. And this, the material of this speech is derived from my PhD thesis and some of my new research outcome. But I'm still trying to figure out a way to make it to become some journal article or something like that. So I really need your feedback. Thank you. All right. Okay, here just give you some basic information about the underground water crisis I used in my topic. This color means the area that has headland subsidence before. So, so you can see Taipei basins also has severe land subsidence before. And these three different colors indicates the sinking area at different rate currently, but the data is stopped at 2022. And the red lines indicate the Taiwan high-speed railway systems. And this map emphasizes the Taiwan high-speed railway system because the most severe land subsidence area in Yunlin County overlap with the railway lines. So the THSR's company's engineer worried that such overlapping may cause some safety concerns. So it's the most important issue to the Taiwanese water regulation government. The Taiwan Resource Agency in Taiwan, or hereafter we can tell the WRA. WRA claims that the land subsidence crisis is alleviating right now, but they also admit that due to the severe drought from the fall 2020 to spring 2021, the groundwater level decreased and land subsidence rates and area increases. And considering the current extreme climate change conditions, it is hard to conclude that the Taiwan government has solved the groundwater crisis. And another information is that scientists already know that the land subsidence is caused by very long-term overpumping of groundwater on the land with weak hydrogeological condition. It usually needs several years or even decades to cause land subsidence. So we can ask the questions to the Taiwan's underground water crisis is why the ROC government left the unregulated groundwater pump for so many years. And many groundwater experts have given some answer to these questions. Most of them argues the long-term uncontrolled extractions of groundwaters and the lack of knowledge about underground world is the main cause of the underground water crisis in Taiwan. However, due to my historical research, I have found some more complex materials, can tell a complex story. And we have to examine when, why, and how the ROC government starts understanding and managing groundwater and how it has been understood and managed. So this table just summarizes groundwater development history in Taiwan from the Japanese era to the early post-war period of Taiwan. And before 1945, which is Japanese era, groundwater was partially developed for irrigations, industrial use, and tap water. The Japanese government actually announced some laws to regulate regional groundwater development, but the Japanese government did not yet to extract groundwater in Taiwan systematically. And in the same time, during 1943 to 47, China, under the support of the United Nations Relief and Rehabilitation Administrations, the China National Relief and Rehabilitation Administration established AMOMO. AMOMO is an organization which was responsible for improving agriculture's mechanizations in China, and including increasing irrigation water by digging underground water with drilling machines. And AMOMO was once invited by Taiwan Sugar Corporations to Taiwan for well drillings, but the results were unsatisfactory. So in 1949, TSC, Taiwan Sugar Corporation, invited another drilling companies from the US named Johnston Corporations, and in 1949 to 1950, TSC developed more than 100 deep wells by collaborating with Johnson Company. And in August 1951, Taiwan province announced a law to regulate groundwater, and the central government revised water law in 1955. Also in 1955 to 58, Taiwan Sugar Company and Taiwan Province Water Conservancy Bureaus investigate the groundwater in the middle of Taiwan. And in 1958, the Taiwan province government established Groundwater Development Bureau, and hereafter GDB, and Groundwater Development Committee. After that, GDB was the government agency in charge of planning and executing groundwater development projects. According to these timetables, the ROC government's decisions to understand and regulate underground waters can be traced back to the late 1950s, the initial state of the large-scale groundwater development on this island. However, the GDB was downgraded in 1966 by accusing the poor state of operations, and finally it was disbanded in 1976. According to the office that responds to in charge of the groundwater affair in the 1980s, the groundwater specialist was spread to different departments after the GDB was downgraded and disbanded. The downgrading and dissolution of GDB result in a lack of experts to address the issue when the length of silent problems began to emerge in Taiwan in 1980s. As stated by a groundwater expert, Mr. Yang, in 1988, he said, groundwater professionals in Taiwan at that time are all self-taught. The Taiwan Water Conservancy Bureaus and the Water Resource Planning Institute completely lack groundwater experts. And the Central Geological Survey did not engage in groundwater work. And the talents students cannot find a job after they graduate. So I think the historical context of the Taiwan underground water crisis might be traced or narrowed down to another question: is why the GDB was held in the 1950s, late 1950s, and why it was downgraded in the middle 1960s. So based on this understanding, I'm try to rephrase the question about the groundwater crisis in Taiwan by drawing two methodological reconsiderations. First, I will try to contextualize why the KMT government want to and how they regulate the underground world, and why they lack interest in the groundwater after 1966. Second, I moved beyond the past approach of focusing solely on the relationship between the state and the water users. In other words, I extend the analytical scale and I put the groundwater crisis under the Cold War geopolitics. And moreover, I also look at the underground world from below, which means I will consider how the underground materials impact the KMT government's groundwater governance. Finally, the concepts I use to link these different skills and different actants is concept infrastructures. And drawing from infrastructure scholars, infrastructure is not only the large technological system, but also the way to connect different human and non-human actors. So it's a way of connection. And drawing on this idea in these lectures, the infrastructure I use means include the well, the drilling machine, people, water law, and science related to the groundwater governance. Following just give you some of my argument in this speech first. First is, I try to argue the development and management of groundwater in Taiwan are highly affected by the domestic water right regime and also the international, include technical or foundational aids under the Cold War era geopolitics. Second, RC, or you can say Taiwan's water rights regime, can only exist with well-functional infrastructures. Third, the state of the depositions of infrastructure are affected by the policy and the evaluation of the funding agency, so that plays an important role. And four, the goal, or today we might say KPI set by the funding agency, it's not only required to the developing state, but also plays like a link that build a connection between international aids and domestic water agency and the local water politics. Okay, so I will start my story. We go back to the 1949 first. This photo is taken in 1949 in 𝐃𝐨𝐦𝐢𝐧𝐢𝐤 𝐃𝐨𝐦𝐢𝐧𝐢𝐤 farms, a sugarcane farmland owned by Taiwan Sugar Corporation in Jiayi County. In 1949, the loss of Chinese market increased TSC's pressures to reduce costs and also search for new markets. As a result, more water was needed to produce more sugarcane in a lower cost. However, the war already destroyed the irrigation systems in Taiwan, and the repair progress was very slow. Even the reservoir were the best option for the irrigation engineers. Taiwan Sugar Corporation didn't have enough time and money to reach this goal. And last, most sugarcane farmland in Taiwan is located in southern Taiwan, and this area has a distinct wet-dry seasons. So irrigation in dry season is also already a huge problem for the company. So this context explains the story behind this photo. Is a Taiwan Sugar Company hired the Johnston Corporations, a well-drilling company in the U.S., to develop the deep well to irrigate the sugarcane farmland in 1949 to 50s. And this event had three meanings to the history of Taiwan's groundwater development. First is Johnston's corporation sent two geologists from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation to conduct geological survey in Taiwan before deciding to proceed with the deep well constructions. And this is the first time the groundwater developers doing some research, geological research, before they start well constructions. Second, Johnston Corporations, when they lived in the 1950s, they left all of their equipment, including the drilling machines, to the Taiwan Sugar Corporations. This has made the Taiwan Sugar Corporations the largest groundwater development organization in Taiwan. And the third meaning is the success of Taiwan Sugar Corporation's groundwater irrigations had attracted the attention of many individuals and agencies. First, the ROC government, and also the local farmers. But I don't have the time to talk the local story, so this speech I will focus on the story related to the ROC government. In 1949, suddenly population increased due to the retreat from mainland China, putting the KMT government under a huge food security crisis. And as you can see, the estimated population growth rate from 1950 to 1963 is more than 30 per mil, according to Juyoung's research. And after retreat from mainland China, the Joint Commissions on Rural Reconstructions, hereafter JCRR, surveyed the land of Taiwan to evaluate the farmland and agricultural conditions. And this guy, O.J. Todd, is the chief of the divisions of irrigation and engineer, indicated the lack of irrigation water was the most critical agricultural issue by stating that, he said, yes, we found that the land on the west coast of the islands, the Taiwan, are more desirable than the east coast, and that there is greater demand for irrigation water in the west than is available. So at that time, the west part of Taiwan had agricultural land fit for planting the crop, but they don't have enough irrigation water. So the emergency to solve the food security problem and the terrible irrigation conditions made the KMT government give high importance to groundwater development. After June 1950, due to the Korean War, the United States restarted aid the Free China government. In 1952, this guy, Dr. 𝐃𝐸𝒂𝒂𝒏'𝒔 of the Mutual Security Associations, is NSA, came to Taiwan, and he's a geologist, and his job is to review the Taiwan Sugar Company's sugar industry and the groundwater development. But he also gave a general suggestion to the KMT government about the groundwater development strategies. I think most important is he gave the KMT government a long-term groundwater management suggestions, includes the combined development of surface water and groundwaters, and he suggests the KMT government should replace modern pumping equipment for agricultural wells, and he also suggests Taiwan government should establish a monitoring well to prevent seawater intrusions and enhance the geological surveys, etc. Moreover, the Taiwan provincial government decided to align with the object of the 4-year economic plan, and this plan was formulated in collaboration with the U.S. aid programs to increase Taiwan's economic development and include agricultural productions. The provincial government, Taiwan provincial government requests Taiwan Water Conservancy Bureaus and Taiwan Sugar Company to research surface water and groundwater utilizations and to determine which option is more cost-effective, and this is very important. They also proposed establishment of a committee convened by the Taiwan Water Conservancy Bureaus charged with formulating groundwater exploration plans and budget proposals. Additionally, they sought assistance from the United States aid program under Counterpart Fund Aid. In 1950s, recognizing the continuous decline, another context is in 1950s, recognizing the continuous decline of sugar industry in Taiwan. So the paddy rice became the primary crop promoted by the government under its policy of fostering industry through the agriculture. And this means that the irrigation area of deep well gradually expand from Taiwan Sugar Corporation's farmlands to the rural area throughout Taiwan. However, rural area in Taiwan already had some traditional well groundwater development and traditional wells digging. And this traditional well was called by these experts as bamboo wells. And they call them a bamboo well because the local people use the bamboo as a tool to conduct groundwaters. And the coexistence of Taiwan Sugar Corporation's deep well and the local people's bamboo well often result in conflicts over water usage, and leading to the confusion regarding groundwater right. So as a response, the provincial government established a supplementary regulation for registration of groundwater right, which limits the authority to use groundwater to those with approved water rights authorized by the provincial government. However, such regulatory policies clash with the policies of another provincial bureaus, is Taiwan Provincial Food Bureau. Taiwan Provincial Food Bureaus is trying to increase the rice productions on the lands, and they implement a regulation that incentivizes farmers to take loans to purchase water pumps, that means to develop groundwater. And this regulation were welcome in the water scarce southern regions of Taiwan. However, the extensive and sporadic development of groundwater escalate conflict over water usage and leads to unforeseen consequences. In 1953, for instance, farmers in the sugarcane producing area switched to cultivating rice due to the rising price of rice at that year, and resulting poor sugarcane harvest for Taiwan sugar corporations. And for the government, this like a chaos and highlights the inadequacy of groundwater development planning. In this event, the document on the left shows the central government tried to stop the subsidies of the loan to buy the pumps, but the local legislators is trying to stop this policy, so they give the document to the central government. But despite requests from these local council members, they asked to restore subsidy policies. The central government, actually the Economic Stability Board of Executive Yuan, they reject the request and emphasize that experts from MSA's Mutual Security Association hired to assist in regional groundwater development planning in Taiwan. So in 1953, the central government is already trying to hire some foreign experts and to we understand and we allocate the underground water right. And there are two foreign groundwater experts played a significant role. The first one is Dr. George E. Bells. He came to Taiwan in 1957 as one of the 6 hydraulics experts from the engineering office of Hlith Kennedy. And this engineering office was hired by the MSA. And these 6 experts is going to assess the total Taiwan's water resource development potential. And Mr. Bell is in charge of groundwaters. And Mr. Bell also served as an advisor to the Taiwan Water Resource Planning Committee. And as I said, the funding for these experts came to Taiwan, and they stayed for approximately 11 months, was provided by the Council for United States Aid and the MSA. And finally, these experts compiled a report titled "A Report on Water Resource Planning in Taiwan." Thus, due to the lack of the archive, I am still understanding how these projects implement and what impacts to the further water development idea or practice. But it can be confirmed that this was the first time the Kennedy government conducted a comprehensive statistical assessments and development evaluation of all water resources in Taiwan. And according to the Archive of the Water Resource Planning Commissions, basic data statistics was carried out by the local officers, and engineers from the 𝐾𝐸 Kennedy is doing some mathematical assessments and calculations. Another critical foreign expert was David Stoner, and who came to Taiwan in 1949 as a geologist to assist Johnston corporations in assessing the potential for groundwater development. And in 1956, Stoner wrote a memorandum titled Some Principle of Legal Groundwater Control to JCRR. Based on principle of groundwater management in the United States, Stoner recommendations that were widely referenced by JCRR and become guiding principle embraced by local water resource officials in Taiwan. So what he said, as shown in this slide, Stoner suggests that groundwater should be regarded as public property and under the control of the government. And they should manage through systems of applications and permits of water right. And these systems should be centralized under one central authority in the government. Additionally, he also mentions lowering the groundwater table will increase the total useful supply. And this is some difference to today's idea. And I will explain this point later. Stoner's recommendations emphasize the importance of national control over groundwater. For JCRR, it was necessary to reconsider the perspective on the ROC's water law, especially the riparian right. Because JCRR specialists and also the Stoners, they think the riparian right is very detrimental to the large-scale groundwater development, and they must be abrogated by legal means. And one issue was that if the riparian right were recognized, allowing those, the riparian right is the idea that who can display first and who got the right to use the natural resource this way, includes groundwater. So if the riparian right were recognized, and it will allow those who first occupy the lands to acquire water right, and this would hinder, or like a Bart mentioned by Dominic, the acquisition of water right of latecomer. They may trying to dig the deep wells and develop more water. And these deep well developer mostly invest by the state. So moreover, the pumping from deep wells could affect the water quantity of bamboo wells, which rely on the artisan field, and it will exhibiting or rising the conflict between the deep wells developer and the bamboo wells users. So, echo to the Dominic's idea, the bamboo well and the local groundwater users in this water experts' eyes, are also the bar to the development. And this perspective not only stopped at foreign consultants or JCRR, this perspective also became a dominant ideology among water officials in Taiwan regarding groundwater right. And the author of this citation, Mr. Chen, he previously served the Water Resource Agency, and later he became a law professor. And the paragraphs are from his scholarly paper on water rights and the law. And here we can see how he characterized of riparian right. Yeah, he says the system of riparian right is a conservative, outdated, and non-progressive systems. And so later he mentions we, the ROC government, are the new China of three principles of people. So we will definitely not adopt an outdated form of riparian right. So combining those mentioned above, including the 1957 Water Resource Surveys, Stoner's discourse on water right in 1956, and also the groundwater investigation in 1955, it is evident that the MSA and JCR systems endorsed the groundwater development plans at the time. And in 1958, the Taiwan provincial government established the Groundwater Development Bureau and the Groundwater Development Committee. And as a document says, they established these two organizations. It's the goal of establishing these two organizations. One of the goals is to further strive for the USA. And the provincial government and the GDP later lead the groundwater policy, expanding the central authorization control to unified national groundwater development by developing their own deep wells. And further research is needed to clarify these transitions. But one possibility is that although the GDP was established by the Taiwan provincial government, it is the GDP status remained contentious at that time due to the already existence of Taiwan Water Conservancy bureaus. So this compelled the GDP to demonstrate its value through the effectiveness of groundwater development. So they dig a lot of well and trying to prove this well investment can get some return. So following, so there are actually four phases of GDP's groundwater development project, and the phase one is from 1958 to 1962. And you can see the financial resources come from JCRR, both subsidence or subsidy and the loan, and food bureaus. But in the second phase, the International Development Association joins to the agency. And the significance of these transitions, this transition is very important because unlike JCRR have expert and committee located in Taiwan for a very long time. IDA is belong to the United Nations, and their experts did not stay in Taiwan, and they only just some very short trip to Taiwan to see the groundwater development conditions. So the consultant from IDA often have a friction with the engineers of GDB. So let me illustrate this point further. First, first let me illustrate the policy with example of transformation of groundwater management. Okay, you can see this is the mode of development they try to establish from at that time, approximately from 1958 to 1966. And these three purple colors agencies all belong to the Taiwan province government. And the Authority of Construction Department of Taiwan provincial government is charged of the water right of whole islands, and they are supervisor of Taiwan Water Conservancy Bureaucracy and GDB. And Taiwan Water Conservancy Bureaucracy and GDBs, they one is developed surface water, and another one is developed groundwater, and they transmit the water into the irrigation systems. But the whole budget of these constructions are loaned from the international aid associations like IDA or JCR, MSA after JCR. So the GDB have to return the money to this agency. So where the money comes from? The money comes from farmers. The farmer who use the groundwater it's developed from the GDB has to pay the water fee, and the GDB will collect the water fee as the returns of the loan and the interest. So this is the mode of the groundwater development in about 1958 to 1966. But this mode finally failed, and I will illustrate the failure of the policy of this mode with the example of the transformation of groundwater management system in Pingdong. Okay, so as you can see from this diagram and this table, 60% of the budgets were loaned from the international aid agency. And this money finally came from the farmer who used the groundwater, right? So therefore, the willingness and the repayment capacity of irrigation associations in each region significantly impact GDB's groundwater development projects. Consequently, GDB had to obtain consent from over 90% of the irrigation association members before developing. However, some irrigation area with great potential for groundwater development might not be willing to engage in groundwater development projects pushed by GDP. And this creates operational difficulty for GDP. For instance, the archives from provincial government and WRA indicate a poor financial condition of the irrigation association in Pingdong and Zhanghua County, and which were considered have a large amount of groundwater to develop around 1960s. From the other archive, it was discovered that the United Nations had sent an expert to conduct assessment in Pingdong and trying to solve the groundwater development problem, I say. And this experts recommend GDB change the billings method from collecting fees from the irrigation associations to just collecting money from each individual users, and thus will bypassing the requirement for 90% consent. However, the outcome was very unfavorable, as after the trial period ended, the water purchased by Pingtung Irrigation Association only reached 96% of initially projected, resulting in a loss of 1.6 million NTD for the GDP. And the performance in the second year was even worse, with only 41% of estimates volumes, and leading to a loss of 6 million NTD for the GDP. As a result, this new policies ceased operation in 1966. So, despite numerous government documents praising the achievement of GDP's development of Taiwan's groundwater, including Pingtung, some documents reveals previously low willingness among Pingtung farmers for underground water development. As this article states, that most of the land in Pingtung area is infertile and farmers are poor. The high cost of deep well developing, low interest, and maintenance fees, coupled with low water yield and irrigation efficiency, have increased the burden of association members. As a result, the enthusiasm for developing groundwater source and increasing crop production had diminished, leading to the highest lateness in membership fee in the deep well zone. But this archive is from the local irrigation association's perspective. And if we look at the GDP's own perspective, they also admit the difficulties of pushing or improve the groundwater development by their own. They says the bureaus, the GDP, face difficulty in implementing the project due to the lack of cooperation from the Food Bureau in incentivizing well constructions or farmers' self-built wells. So there are different kinds of well competing with that. And additionally, GDP has no authority to intervene, and private well often illegally connect to GDP's well for power supplies and have gradually encroached upon the planned deep well irrigation areas, significantly impacting the development and operations. So in sense, these two documents was all published in the early 1970s, and all shows the GDP's groundwater development in the 1960s did not meet the expectation at least in certain areas, for example, Pingtung. In addition to the Pingtung event, in 1964, the IDA argued that the GDP failed to provide sufficient piece of evidence to support their deep well development projects, leading the IDA reduce the loan funding. This story may show why GDP continuously increased from 1958 to 1964, and suddenly they were downgraded in 1966. In 1958, GDP had only 34 to 55 personnel, and they don't have their own independent engineer team. But by 1964, there were 190 employees, and they have own additional engineer team with 145 personnel. But finally, in the 1966, GDP was criticized by province legislator for poor management and was downgraded by to be under the Taiwan Water Conservancy Bureau. Regarding the downgrade of the groundwater development bureaus, the province legislator claimed it was due to GDP's poor management, just like this newspaper says. And while the Taiwan provincial governments argued that it was this transformation is to return to the authority over water resource development to a single agency, that is Taiwan Water Conservancy Bureau. On the other hand, a retired GDB bureaucrat told me it was because the groundwater resource had been nearly exhausted. But I think these explanations all overlook the temporary nature of GDB's organization. The initial concept of GDB was actually the issue was for the TWCB directors to serve as its heads concurrently. So it's like the Taiwan Water Conservancy Bureau's director is also the GDB later. But after the Taiwan provincial government securing a large amount of funding from JCRR, GDB continued to expand and become an independent agency. Nevertheless, the financial structure of groundwater development required GDB to ensure that the development could repay the loan and interest, as I said earlier, and which involved the social and local water politics dynamics within each irrigation association area. In other words, GDB was an institution that existed under the context of the Cold War's international development assistance, and its survival relied on the assessments of its operational effectiveness by the funding agency and the central government. The downsizing of the GDP also involved the KMT government's bias toward the nature of groundwater quality, highlighting the importance of water over geology in groundwater management. So they think groundwater is geology and the water is combined together, but at that time the KMT government emphasized water than the geology. And this further weakened the significance of geology in the groundwater management, and as evidence in the Taiwan Water Conservancy bureaucracy take the authority over the GDP. Furthermore, the downsizing had another impact of diminishing the GDP influence on groundwater issues. In 1973, the GDP discovered declining groundwater levels and seawater intrusion in the coastal area of Juyoung Lee, and it's the pink area in this picture. The GDP suspect land subsided, but they lacked further actions. I use this case to argue that it might, because the downgrade GDP is, they cannot independently propose their own water policy policies. They only can suggest their supervisors is Taiwan Water Conservancy Bureau. And finally, the financial nature of the GDP contribute its understanding of groundwater issue, primarily from a surface water development perspective. In a review of past groundwater investigation results in 1986, experts criticized the GDP for not accurately distinguish different aquifers with its observation well. GDP only measures overall water level fluctuations. However, precise differentiations of water level in different aquifers is only meaningful when the people understands or considering geological risk is matter, or they want to modeling the groundwater environment. So these considerations related to the geology is absent in the mindset of GDP's experts during the period from 1958 to 1976. And that is what I'm trying to say, the Cold War international aid regimes might somehow affect the local bureaucracies or experts' perspective on the groundwater. They look the groundwater from above and from the utility. So here's my tentative conclusions. First, international aid experts provide a specific governance ideology and investigation techniques, equipment, and knowledge to implement this management ideology. And the KMT hydraulics bureaucrat and government officials accept the groundwater governance ideology and utilize the international aid system to acquire resource to practices. The groundwater development projects connect actors at various scales to international aid laws. And for the form of international aid not only includes the KMT's organizational approach to environmental resource, in this case, on the groundwater development, including the positioning of the GDP, but also shape a specific perspective on the groundwater, underground work, and influence subsequent groundwater policies. And the last one is just very amateur ideas. Perhaps this type of development-oriented international aid program for environmental resource under the context of Cold War could further evolve into a discussion on the what is Anthropocene in the East Asia, mentioned by Professor Bong Park in this place earlier. So just some ideas. Thank you very much.
The above is Dr. Ho's lecture on connecting infrastructure with agents in groundwater management. Before open to our next section, Q&A, if our two speakers will feedback or respond to each other. If not, we go ahead to our Q&A section. I have two questions. One is for Dr. Dominic and one for Dr. Ho. First one is for Dominic. In your slide of page 50, could you share more in detail about what's the other fluid on your research? Yeah, this is my question. And the second question I want to raise to Dr. Ho is in your slide of unknowing the underground world. So I want to ask, could you share more in detail what the unknown of the groundwater is? What's the unknown of groundwater is? Thank you.
Yeah, so yes, because I looked at this whole parasitological knowledge production from the perspective of water, and so water is like a fluid element. Yeah. And it has different forms. It can also go from fluid to gaseous state and so on. And my idea was just that these research processes were also somehow fluid, because when researchers think about their research themselves, especially in this period, they often thought they controlled nature. Yeah, yeah. So they had methods to control it. But and my argument is that first of all, it somehow always evolves between two different poles. On the one hand, of course, there is this control pole, and on the other hand, there are also the encounters between different agents. So also this applies here to the local population, to the norms, and also to the instruments they use, and so on. But here I compared especially two different research assemblages in the hookworm research of the researchers from Changsha, because we had this research in the Pingshan colliery, which was more controlled than the other research, for example, in the antimony mines, because it was much more dependent on the encounters with the population and less controlled. So this was the idea, that we have here especially high fluidity in this research.
Yeah. Because I think this is one key point on your research, and it expands our imagination of fluid landscape. So maybe you can take your time to finalize your part in this event, please.
Yes.
A short finalization about your research.
Yes, this is like my research method. So I also call it cartography, and so I also draw on philosophy of Juyoung Lee especially, and I also observed such kind of research relations. So they differentiate also two poles, like the royal science and the nomadic science. So, for example, for the nomadic science, they use as an example the Gothic architecture, for example. Yeah. So that more follows something than to apply fixed research grid as in the royal science. So, and this is somehow my research method also, to look at research processes and how do they develop between these two poles. And of course, it's especially interested in the context of colonial medicine, of imperialism, and especially in China, because we don't have this huge colonial apparatus as in other colonies. Yes.
Okay. Since Dr. Dominic's finalization, expected to see your expansion on your research in the future. And
maybe I would like to add one point, okay. Because I also showed the research of Barlow on vascular psoriasis. And if you look at these research processes, they also dealt differently with the research objects. So I showed you this snail, and that he somehow observed the life, the development of these larvae of the worm in the snail. And this is also one thing that interests me, because in comparison with other researchers, he used less destructive methods. Yeah. So I wrote a bigger thesis on the history of parasitology in southern China, and there I operate also with two poles, another two poles. In the history of colonial medicine, imperial medicine, they often talk about the tool of empire. So this maybe would be more correlate with the royal science. And on the other hand, I use 𝐼𝒻𝒂𝒊𝒂𝒏 concept of the tool for conviviality. So, and also look at these research processes, the interaction with the population, and try to locate the research between these two poles.
Maybe do some comparative in parallel research in this topic. Thanks, Dr. Dominic. And listen to Dr. Ho's response and finalize.
I guess it's it's from the old version of my PowerPoint provided earlier. But actually, yeah. You're very clearly just unknowing the underground world is not a very precise title. But what I'm trying to say is, because we often discuss modern environmental issues or anthropocene issues in humanities, emphasize materiality and non-emergency, right? But recently I feel that maybe it's like a little bit old school, but I'm curious about why the bureaucracy plays a role in this management. So I try to connect the bureaucracy and administrative affairs of international aid agency and the domestic water regulated agencies with the issues of the assemblage or the network of our modern environment. And in this case, I try to say is the different aid structure or policy might affect the ways of understanding or organizing the environmental reality. Yeah. So in the period I discussed today, they focus on just getting more water and they have to return the loan. So this limits their interest and research perspective about the underground. So there's so many things they even doesn't care and also unknowns. That's why I use this topic.
Yep. Thanks, Dr. Holmes, because this research you shared today is more about how the engines interact. But what I think of is about infrastructure. It may be related to the measurement methodology. Maybe you have treated it in the past. Maybe you can connect the infrastructure with the agents' interaction more, and maybe the relationship maybe will become more concrete in your research. Yeah. So because of time limits, so we will close this event now. Since all of our audience to attend this event, please go to our more events in the future. Thank you.